Today we have another young, opinionated, hardworking Indian woman as part of the Voice of the Young series. She's more than opinionated, she's a doer. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you once again. Today we have with us Stuti Kakkar. She runs, well, let her tell her story. Why should I do it? Over to you, Stuti.
Thank you so much, Support, sir. And as already said, this is such a great initiative. And I'm very honored that you reached out to me for this. So just a short introduction first. Hi, everyone. I'm Stuti Kakkar. I am 21 years old, and I've been born and brought up in Delhi. I recently graduated from Lady Shri Ram College. I was pursuing economics honors here. And I absolutely love my subject, that is economics. I think a lot of people think economics is about money or, some complex graphs and diagrams. But to the core of it, I think my subject was really about decision making, to always, map out scarce resources and the opportunity cost of things. And then it is applicable in literally all spheres of life, because we have to make decisions here and there, even in our personal lives. And I think, Mr. Sodi, will agree with me, given your experience and PhD in economics as well. So
yeah, opportunity cost is a core concept.
Core concept, exactly.
Right. Okay, but let's not discuss that. Let's go ahead with your story.
So I'm also the co-founder of Mine Electric, which is an electric vehicle startup. Of course, for some of us, startups and EVs are just like the future or the buzzwords, and people are really divided on it. I'll just give you like a brief about it. I won't go on and on about it. So at Mine, we are actually building an electric motorcycle. And
how do you spell it? Because I think mine is not a word people are familiar with.
Mine is spelled as MEINE. So it is basically a German word for mine. So when we were thinking about a word, we wanted something which people, associate with themselves. At the root of it, we really wanted to make this world a more better, more sustainable, place. At the same time, we also wanted that people should not compromise on their, choices or products that they like just to go on the environmental sustainability track. So our tagline also is built to be yours. So essentially, we really want people to associate, the product and the whole larger concept of electric mobility with themselves. And that's how we came about this name.
Okay, who's we?
So it's me. I'm the co-founder, and along with me, I also have another co-founder who is Priyansh Mohan. He is also a student, and he's pursuing mechanical engineering from Chennai. So together, and a lot of other young individuals like us have come together to solve the electric mobility problem.
Wow.
And we are right now working on a revolutionary battery technology, which is patent pending. So some really great work being done out there. Apart from that,
is it sodium-based battery or still lithium ion, or you won't tell us?
Just waiting for the patent to be approved. I'm under a non-disclosure agreement. But yes, it is much more sustainable than the lithium-ion batteries. So obviously a better alternative. From both an environmental standpoint, also from a supply chain standpoint, because we know that lithium as a metal is not abundant in India, and we have to depend on other countries. So we wanted something where India can really be self-sufficient, and we can sort out the supply chain to a larger extent.
Okay.
Now that's about my startup, which I started.
Are you funded or it's your own money?
So right now we are bootstrapped. What we did was, since we were all students with no savings as such, we participated in a lot of competitions which had cash prize money. And we pooled all of that prize money to build the prototypes and the MVP and then apply for the patents. So we were able to...
MVP? Hang on. What, you built an MVP? What's that?
So MVP is minimum viable product. It's a very startup term. And it's essentially something, like a low cost version of your product, which you use just to test out your hypothesis or just to test out whether things are working just the way you imagined it or not.
Okay, so, is it like a proof of concept, or is it...
a step ahead of proof of concept,
Yep.
essentially. So we were able to win around 2 lakh rupees from participating in a lot of competitions.
Okay.
And we used that to then, build out the product from the scratch.
Wow.
And right now we are actually in the process of raising our first round of funding.
Fourth round. Okay.
First round.
First round. Okay.
Right. So we are in the process of doing that.
And it says you are the chief revenue officer. So you are the hunter for money, right?
Right. So essentially the role of a chief revenue officer is it's a very broad role. It's essentially to tie up all the revenue generating functions of a business. So essentially where to get money from and how to use it and how to spend it well is something which comes under my domain. So lately, one of the biggest challenges I faced here was to sort out the supply chain. Economics in the classes we used to read about, the global supply chain issues and how India has a broken supply chain. But it was really something to just, like experience it at a very practical level, like talking to vendors and, asking them for like negotiating with them on the price, getting the delivery, making sure you get the right product, so on and so forth. So right now, again, my all efforts are on raising the funding.
Okay, good, wonderful. I hope people who are watching will also give you some money. All right.
I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and apart from that, I sat in the placement process of my college. So I'm also going to be joining Boston Consulting Group very soon as an associate in the strategy consulting domain. And in my college, I essentially came with the thought that I really want to experience and try out everything. And by everything, I mean everything under the sun. So I found a sweet spot in research. So I had authored 2 research papers. I also ran the research journal of my department. And I participated in a lot of competitions. I discovered what strategy consulting is, what finance is, and then I also tried my hand at entrepreneurship.
So did you ever have fun?
All of this is fun for sure.
Okay.
And I think I was never the kind of person who was satisfied by just reading something in the books. So for me, fun was to get out and explore it in the real world. Okay. And that's what I tried to do.
Okay.
And apart from that, I also learned French for a while in Delhi. So recently having fun watching a lot of French movies and songs and so on and so forth. Okay. I think learning from other cultures.
Okay, wonderful. And how will you manage working for this consulting group and your startup at the same time? I thought startup takes all your energy.
Definitely it does. But as students, I think one thing which I have really mastered is multitasking without compromising on any of the stuff. And I think the strategy consulting space is also going to be a new experience altogether. So I'm very sure that I have the plan ahead to, sort out funding and then get there and get the experience there as well. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be smooth sailing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you will be based in which city?
I'm not sure about it yet. Okay. So still awaiting the decision, but most probably Gurgaon or Bangalore.
Okay. But the consulting company will be okay. I guess they're okay with Gurgaon and Bangalore because there's 2 hotspots anyway.
Definitely.
Okay, so what else? Sorry to ask, what else is going on in your life?
So there's almost like there's really a lot that's going on, and I tried to summarize it in my introduction, which really now I think about it, it's not little.
No, I'm keen to hear as much as you want to share. Okay, I mean, I do strategy consulting. I think many people know, but this whole business of a manufacturing startup is not something that at least most people know. Because mostly startups are software, people are making apps in Indian languages or doing something else that is virtual, okay? Education startups, health, telehealth, and so on. But this is hardcore, cutting edge production because a better battery is something I have been writing about for quite some time, that India's major problem, issue of the future
Exactly.
is a better battery. Because we can't do solar power without that battery. Okay, so solar power, if we have to use solar power to run our EVs, then we got to have better batteries. And
Right,
right,
definitely.
right. So, no use talking solar without talking batteries. Right? Absolutely.
In
So,
fact, like even solar, like from what I learned through my experience, even solar power is not really efficient when it comes to vehicles, because it's good to be installed at homes where you have a lot of surface area so that it can generate a lot of energy. But for a moving vehicle, it becomes a little difficult to manage the transmission. And by difficult, I mean at times it's not just financially feasible. Hence, we really, really need to focus on the batteries, because
yeah,
even the government is really concentrated on that now. We have FAME 2 subsidies, we have a lot of subsidies given by the states themselves apart from the center, and all of that will go to waste unless we really innovate here. As in, there are a lot of two-wheelers right now as well, which are just taking the vehicle from the China, assembling it in India, and then selling it. So essentially, the real innovation should happen in India and not outside. That's, my opinion on the whole
okay. So
process.
these are knockdown kits coming from China of electric two-wheelers.
Exactly.
Okay. So there's just a screwdriver technology. You just assemble. Okay.
Right.
Do you know about this battery swapping of three-wheelers in Delhi? Can
Yeah,
you
yeah,
tell
yeah.
us a bit about it? How does it work? Do you know?
So essentially, there are two types of batteries. There are primary batteries and secondary batteries. So
Mm-hmm.
primary batteries are the ones which you can, which they are like the batteries that you put in your remotes or
Yeah.
AC remotes, right? So once they start generating energy through the chemical reaction, they will only die down. There's no way to recharge them.
Right.
And then there are other batteries like lithium ion, which are rechargeable.
Right.
So right now, the market is itself divided as to which battery technology should we follow for the vehicles.
Yeah.
And there has been progress made on both the ends.
Mm.
Lithium ion, of course, became really popular. Reason being that it had the first mover advantage, and
Right.
it was one battery which proved out to be efficient
Yeah.
and viable both technologically as well as financially.
Yes.
However, there are other batteries as well, like sodium or aluminium air or manganese, a metal air essentially,
Yeah.
which cannot be recharged, but they can be swapped. So the
Yes.
concept is that you have stations where you can get the fully recharged batteries,
Mm-hmm.
and you just park your vehicle. If your charge is out, you take out the discharged battery and insert the new one.
Right.
But this process is not as easy as I just made it sound in one line, of course.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of issue about standardization, first of all, because every vehicle is using different type of battery which needs to be inserted in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, even the charging infrastructure right now in India is really inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it has been increasing, but you can easily see the difference as soon as you move out from a tier one city.
Mm-hmm.
So even if like one step into from Delhi to Noida, I'll be able to see the lack of charging stations, which is a major roadblock for EV adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a rider, as a customer, if I know there is not enough charging infrastructure, then I would not be very willing to buy an electric vehicle in any mode, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, etc. in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why swapping battery became really popular with the three-wheelers is because they travel short distances and they already have collection, parking points. So towards the end of the day or early in the morning, you'll see spaces in the city where all the auto rickshaws or three-wheelers are parked, right? And those stations can very easily become the swappable battery stations.
Okay.
However, it's very difficult to do that for personal vehicles because the route is uncharted, the distance traveled varies a lot from users. And then you need that kind of extensive network which exists for the, let's say, petrol pumps right now.
Yeah.
But still, there has been a lot of progress on that. I know of Indian Oil and Finergy, which is another startup, who have come into like joint hands together to convert all the Indian Oil petrol pump stations to swappable battery stations in the coming future.
Okay.
But so that is something to be optimistic about. But this is how the landscape looks right now.
Why? Okay. Of course, they taught you all this in economics honors, right? There was a paper all about batteries, right?
I think for me, of course, I apply a lot of economics when I'm making business revenue and strategy decisions at my startup. But I also talk to a lot of engineers and a lot of our advisors who are battery experts or prominent people in the EV space. And for me, initially, it was really difficult to catch on to the engineering terms, being from a tech background.
Same
So
here.
right. Slowly, I, try to understand, try to simplify some engineering concepts. And I also feel that's very important because, one of the problems that tech people face who are, having a startup and raising funding is they get too much into tech, forgetting that other people may not understand any of it. When you're talking to, let's say, customers, or when you're talking to investors, you really need to take a step back, and maybe there might be a really sophisticated, complex concept, but you really need to boil it down so that a layman who is not an engineer could really understand. And I think that's also super important.
Okay, so let me ask you two questions. One, is there any older person whose advice or support you have asked for and got? And number two, do you interact with any government agency directly?
Right. So for just a clarification on the first question, you mean professionally or personally?
Professionally.
Professional. All right. So I think, yes, of course, we have a lot of advisors who have been in the automobile industry for quite some time. And they are able to guide us on things like, supply chain for the common parts, which are used for both IC as well as, electric vehicles, or, business, or how the automobile business.
IC means internal combustion, meaning
Yes.
petrol, right?
Right. Really sorry.
Yeah. So, you are not, the engineers are not the only ones who talk jargon, right? We
I
economists
think we need to simplify it further.
Right. Okay. So, go ahead.
But the thing with the electric vehicle industry right now is that it's only barely 5 to 7 years old in India per se. And by that, I mean commercially. So everyone, be it, an existing automobile giant CEO, CXO, or a new startup, we are all trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. So essentially, we are able to get advice on things which are common between the normal vehicles, petrol and diesel vehicles, and the electric vehicles. But some things which are really unique to electric vehicles is uncharted territory. But that is also good because that's where we find room for innovation and improvement as well. Right? Coming to your second question about directly dealing with NGOs or
government. Not NGOs, government.
Right. So we have plans for that. We haven't yet started it. Essentially, we are also incubated at Atal Incubation Center, which is an initiative by the government. So through that, we got to meet a lot of people who are in the, let's say, transport segment. And most of them try to focus on the electric conversion of the public transport as well. So, for example, we have recent news that Delhi is going to introduce more electric buses and how efficient that's going to be. So even there is another startup called Yulu, which is quite popular in Delhi and some of the other cities. So it's about the last mile delivery, short distances. You'll often find, these low range Yulus, which are parked near the metro stations. And they are also electric. So
there were the electric rickshaws, wasn't it? That was the last mile. The electric, this now called Yulu.
No, Yulu is essentially a two-wheeler.
Okay. Not a three-wheeler. Not a
rickshaw, right?
Okay. All right.
But even e-rickshaws are becoming the most popular. I think if we segment the total electric vehicle sales, majority are two-wheeler low-range vehicles. That is these mopeds or scooters, and the three-wheelers only.
This is widely reported. This is widely reported that look. Okay. All right. Good enough. Okay. Now let me ask you perhaps a question that you may or may not answer. How does a woman fit into this techie world like you? Do they take you seriously? or do you feel no problems? I mean, I know it's sensitive, so if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. But if you
No,
want,
definitely.
okay, so
So I think firstly, since I was at LSR Lady Shriram College and it's an all girls college, somehow for the 3 years it was a really safe space. In the sense, there are these subtle gender biases that one faces in daily life, but once you're in the campus, there's no such thing. So we kind of felt like everything of that sort has been erased, and it was really, really empowering because earlier even in school I faced certain hesitation. I had fear speaking out loud in front of public or coming out, but in college it was somehow really, really all right and fine. When I ventured into startup world, there has been a mix of experience for me. So there are some people on one hand who are really, really supportive, and I think that's also something which I, leverage to make a mark and like be remembered. Because being a girl, being from a non-tech background, and then also managing finance is, something which certain people do not really fit in the conventional idea of
right,
what a
that's what I'm
scenario
asking.
could be.
Right.
Right. But I think the world is changing, and even the startup ecosystem, it's all about progress. So
Yeah.
I have rarely find a handful of people who come with that set of like stereotypical mindset. But of course, I've heard about a lot of women entrepreneurs who talk about the experiences that they have faced in real life, and maybe uh, now that I start working on the startup full time, I might experience more of that, but I'm mentally prepared.
Okay.
And there was this interview of Vinita Singh, who is also a shark, by the way. So in one of her interviews, she told that even though she was IIT IIM graduate, and when she was raising her funding for her startup, she was often told that we'll provide you funding if your partner leaves the full-time McKinsey job and then does this full-time, because we have a problem funding solo women entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And at that point she used to reflect back and reflect back to her chats, and she would find her saying that at least she was so desperate that at least there is hope, and she was so scared that as an entrepreneur you do a lot of different things, right? So you become generalist, right, from cleaning the let's say your workspace to making decisions. Everything is comes under your purview at the beginning. So she also thought that who will even give her a 50,000 job, because she's not a specialist in anything, she's a super generalist, right? And but at that point she said one thing which really stick with me,
But
that
hang on. You used a word I've never heard before, genderless. What is this? Is the new jargon for young people? I've never heard this word in my life. What does genderless mean?
okay, sure. So it's a very interesting concept. A generalist is someone who knows good amount of everything,
Yeah.
and a specialist is someone who knows a lot about one specific field.
Yeah.
So there was this discussion, very intellectually stimulating discussion, which we were having the other day in college, and it was about in this age and time whether one should be a generalist or a specialist.
Okay.
Because if we look at the career trajectory of our parents or grandparents, they have chosen a field and they have worked in it for, let's say, 20, 30 years straight of their career. And they have rarely shifted or, jumped jobs or in different industries across sectors. But in our generation, people often, jump jobs to a completely different sectors. So
Okay.
say right now someone is working in finance, they might shift to HR, they might shift to marketing role in another 2 to 3 years. And with that, the technology is also changing at a very rapid pace. I think more so for our generation than it had been for the
Of
previous
course, no
generation.
doubt about it.
Right. Like recently we have the advent of Chat GPT, and they are, growing with million followers every day.
Right.
So I think in this age, a, a person should prefer being a generalist so that they have a certain flexibility in their careers. And this is also true. This is happening because if you see the trend of freelancing or consulting, jobs or roles, that has dramatically increased in the past 5 to 7 years.
Okay. All
And
right. Sorry to
so,
interrupt, but let's go ahead. What were you
right.
saying before I interrupted you?
Yeah. So essentially, at a startup, we are all at the initial stage a generalist. So we know some bit of everything. And yeah, I was saying about one of the lines which Vinita Singh has
Right,
said, which
right.
stuck with me, is that you choose when to fight your battles.
Okay.
And if something comes up, probably this is not the time. But Vinita Singh says that now that she's successful and she's running a business, she can, work towards it by employing more women in the team, by making more tangible efforts to women empowerment. So I think that's a way to go about it.
Okay. Well, this is actually exhilarating talking to you. So exciting and so full of optimism and will. I think perhaps you have forgotten that sometimes you have to sleep, but that's your choice, I suppose. Because once you are in a startup and in a job, where is the time to sleep? The
Right.
opportunity, let's put it this way, the opportunity cost of sleep is too high, right? Leisure is so expensive, right? Leisure is so costly because by having leisure, you are missing the opportunity to do something great, right?
Definitely.
Definitely. So you turn your work into leisure, and that's the way you solve that problem, right?
But I think in the long run, all of these, I might call it little things in life, which really matter, because you can't really compromise on your health and sleep cycle for a long, long time.
Okay.
Of course, there are some times where you need to grind hard and make things work, but it's definitely not sustainable in the long run.
Okay, fine. Anything else you would like to add?
So essentially, while I was thinking about what I would speak in this, op-ed, I really thought a lot about it, and I just jot down like these 9 points that I wanted to tell something which Chat GPT couldn't tell. So nothing about economics or entrepreneurship, but just 9 learnings which personally I had, and I thought I'd elaborate on them, but I just like to list them down. I think we
Sure,
are short
please.
of
Let's
time.
have it. We are still working with pen and paper. What? Are you from the 18th century?
No, it's just liberating to sometimes also write.
Okay, so show it again and let's have you read them out. Okay, fine. Here you are. Nice handwriting. Pretty good. I can't write like that anymore. So good. Let's go ahead.
So, just 9 things which
Yeah.
I have learned personally from 21 years of existence. I think first is that learn something from everyone. So by that I mean everyone you meet, and you really need to have high observational skills, because if you do it that way, your growth curve is really exponential.
Okay.
And every person, even though they may sound as rude or anxious or whatever personality trait, they really have one thing to teach you.
Okay.
Second, I think youngsters like me, especially in India, need to learn about the money value of time.
Yeah.
So we have a very weird relationship with money as such. We are often told that, oh, you should not take loans, and in many homes also, money is not talked about as a common thing. And if you talk about money, you might often come off as greedy or money minded. That is the term people say. But I think personal finance is really, really important, and to get it sorted at an early age is absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Third thing is that clarity is very important. I think in our generation, everyone has opinion about everything but knowledge about nothing. So you find it on social media. There are people who will be talking about anything that's going on without really doing a deep, research or having enough understanding on the subject matter to begin with. And often we get lost in a lot of sophisticated English and forget what's like the basic thing that we are, really want to put for the one core message. So I think clarity on that, what you speak and what you think and what you do, is really, really important. Fourth is that you have a lot of time. So I think 20s is the age where you can experiment with a lot of stuff with very little downside or risk to begin with.
Okay.
And I've seen people who have created these artificial timelines for themselves, and then they stress over those artificial timelines, which are, set by societal norms. So I think people need to understand that it's okay if you haven't been a millionaire by, let's say, 25 or 26, which is something like a very trending thing on, social media. You find these people who are bragging about, oh, I made this much money at the age of 20 or 21. I mean, it's okay to figure out what you want to do, and you have a lot of time, at least till your 20s. And fifth thing is to create your network, but please don't call it networking. Networking, networking sounds like a very give and take relationship. Oh, I'll talk to this person because they might help me in the future. I think, and this is something which I learned from one of my mentor and advisor as well, that just be genuine. If you really like someone's profile, just send a message and say hi, even if you don't have any future ulterior motive for that.
Right. Okay.
Sixth thing is that all the knowledge is out there. So I feel that all the gyan in any sense has already been spoken, written, made into a podcast. It's just, there's nothing new to find. It's just for you to discover what's out there.
Okay.
So even if it comes with saying, watching YouTube videos, which are very knowledgeable, go ahead and just, try to grab the knowledge out there. Seventh thing is active thinking. So essentially, I think with the social media and all the time we are preoccupied with the screens or, something or the other, we have actually forgotten to actively think about things because we don't have any personal time to think.
Okay.
And there's this quote I read that all of the man's problems emerge from his inability to sit in a room and think about them.
Okay.
So probably have some time to think about things and you will find the solution.
Okay.
Eighth thing is to dream without constraints. So I think this is one thing which I learned from my co-founder, because every time we were bouncing off new ideas, he would say something really ambitious and I would straight away give a reality check. Oh, we have this constraint, that constraint. We can't do this, we can't do that at this level. And that is also important when you are planning and implementing. But when you are dreaming, I think you should erase the constraints and just dream with a big mind.
Okay.
That's where you get innovative ideas.
Okay.
And lastly, I'm sorry I'm taking a lot of time.
No,
but
please go ahead. It's very, very essential that you get all of it out. Okay, we want to hear it.
The last thing is to essentially revisit the fundamentals. So sometimes when we are really, stuck with some problems, I think it's better to revisit our basics and question the fundamentals to begin with. Sometimes the solution is out there instead of all the things in the issue tree.
Well, that's a very impressive list. And the fact that you have compiled it is the 10th most important thing. I think your 10th commandment should be have a list of 9 things.
Definitely.
It's a very, very interesting approach, that you have, and very creative and very powerful. I'm so glad that you shared it with us. And well, best of luck in all your ventures. That's all I can say. I'm envious of the vitality and energy and thinking that you and your cohort have put. I'm hardly envious of many things, but I'm certainly envious. I wish I was that young. I could be part of your team. But anyway, best of luck. And let's end it here today. And maybe we'll catch up with you in 1 year to see how it's going.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody. I'll be back with another young person or an expert next time.